Hello, YouTube. I have a problem with the Night Killer. Now, overall, I've wanted a medieval knight in Dead by Daylight for a while. This is probably one of my top picks for a killer in DBD, and I love it aesthetically. I love the design of the power. It's such a cool concept in general, having them go and patrol out with his own guards and be able to patrol around the map, almost like you're playing like a PvPvE game. It's a really cool concept. But in execution, unfortunately, it kind of falls flat and has some glaring issues. But aesthetically, really cool. Very cool stuff. Perks are great. Everything's great. Except for the hair poking out of the helmet. I hate it so much. But that's not the complaint today. The complaint is that using the knight's power, like you're supposed to use the power, is the biggest detriment you can possibly do. Using the knight's power loses you so much distance in a chase. It loses you so much distance in general from any survivors. It just doesn't really work. I have tried a lot, and as far as I can tell, this is the general consensus. It is worse than not using your power at all for the most part. And that sucks because it's such a cool concept. It's such a cool design. And using any of the different guards for their own intended purposes, you don't really have that opportunity, really. And you also have to be really close to survivors in order to use the guards and patrol in the right areas anyway. So the only real scenario where I can see setting up guards would be useful is probably like in a 3-gen, which having a killer completely dedicated to only dealing with 3-gens doesn't seem like a great idea. The only way to use the knight's power in an effective way to make him a strong killer is unfortunate, because it doesn't require using any strategy with the guards. It doesn't require using any pathing to cut survivors off, really, or any sort of thought into it. The strategy is, unfortunately, anti-loop. You get to a loop with a survivor in chase, you drop the guard down instantly. You do not path any, because if you start trying to path around at any point, the survivor will be able to make it 3 loops away. So trying to place down any sort of a path for your guard to patrol, even if you're pathing it around the loop, is an intense waste of time, and they will just get to 3 other loops away across the map. So what you want to do is to right-click twice in a row immediately, right at the loop. It doesn't matter what guard you have, so you don't have to think about that, and you don't have to create a path at all. Just place them down at the loop, and then if they continue to loop there, they get hit, and they have to run away. Even when they do run away, there's a good chance that the guard that you put down sees them, and so any loop nearby, they can't even really use because the guard will pressure them, and then you can go in from the other side and get a free hit. So it's essentially kind of a weaker artist, very artist-like gameplay in terms of zoning out loops and anti-loop shit, and I hate that. I really do. I hate that. It's clearly not the intended purpose. You're not pathing out anything. You're not actually making smart decisions based on what guard you have available at the moment. You're just forcing anti-loop and forcing a zone. And it doesn't feel good to play against. It doesn't feel good to really play as, at least for me. I've played against knights trying to play normally, and it is so easily counterable, it's insane. You can even just run through the guards when they're put down. It's kind of crazy. You have more than enough time to react to anything that the knight does, really, when they're trying to play normally. Another problem with the knight, when you get targeted by the guards, even when you're trying to play normally, the guards move towards where they last spotted you, which gives you a ton of time to A, go through them, and B, just run away as far as possible if you just run in the opposite direction. On top of that, survivors can see the line in which you path out for your patrol, and they can see the zone in which the guards can see you. So all that being said, there is countless seconds of reaction time, countless ways to deal with it, countless ways to get away from the guards and not deal with the power at all. It is extremely easy to deal with when played normally. However, if you do it anti-loop, there's not really much reaction time for the survivor. If they stay at the loop, they get hit. Even if they run to the next loop, they're probably going to get hit because you can wrap around and force them into the guard themselves, or you hit them. Or you can do a double whammy. You can actually double whammy survivors with the guard and yourself, which is pretty funny. I digress. My problem is that the only way to play this killer effectively and efficiently is to not play it the way it's intended, by just being an artist-like zoning anti-loop killer. instead of actually being strategic and sending your troops out to different generators and pathing out to cutting survivors off instead of them being able to run to a certain place. Because again, when you try to path and cut them off from a certain direction that they're going, you're still sitting still. And so while you're doing that, they're running somewhere else. And you have just lost half the map worth of distance. It just doesn't really work. And it's very unfortunate because it's a really cool concept. I would love to see them actually make it super useful. Because at the moment, unfortunately, there's just no way to make it work. There's a lot of easy ways to deal with it. And there's just more than enough time to react. Way more than enough time to react. You can pretty easily be dealt with. Obviously, the bugs and stuff need to be fixed. AI run into walls. They get stuck on walls. They path around in very weird ways and don't actually do what they're supposed to. There's a lot of weirdness with AI that they put in, so hopefully they figure those out. But then again, Nemesis zombies, so... Anyway... Hopefully those bugs get squashed and we can kind of see where the knight is supposed to be, but he has a lot of issues right now, even all the bugs aside. Has a lot of issues, and I hope that they can make it to where at least you can path out further and faster and be able to actually set up patrol routes that they can go on for longer, because it's a really cool concept. It's almost PvPvE. The power is you have guards set up around the map that you can set paths for, and they can just kind of help you out in terms of cutting people off and creating some pressure on generators when you're not there. It's cool in concept, and I really hope they can make that work because it's so fucking badass. And the knight is badass, but has some very core problems, and unfortunately the only way is brute force in order to play the killer effectively. Anyway, I just wanted to make a quick video on my thoughts with the knight, the problems with the knight, and stuff that hopefully they can maybe hear and address. I think everyone is kind of saying that. So anyway, thank you for listening to me ramble on. I appreciate you. Let me know what you think of the knight. And if I'm wrong on any of these, let me know. I'm down to have a discussion. I feel like this is kind of the conclusion a lot of people are coming to. It seems like he's pretty weak in most aspects and is only really strong in the most unfun way, unfortunately. Also, the map is too fucking red. Why is it so goddamn red?